If you encounter graphics for FreePic that don't easily resize to the size of the artboard that you need, or perhaps you even want to resize or move around individual elements, there are a couple of things that you need to know in order to make that easier, and so you can actually accomplish that goal. The first one is recognizing that the way that these files come from FreePic, elements can be grouped together. There could be something called a clipping mask over top of it, and all of those things will prevent you from easily editing individual objects inside of your file. So in the example that I'm displaying here, I have resized this widthwise, but you can see that I'm still leaving quite a bit of space on the top and the bottom of my document that isn't filled with the graphic, and I actually need these objects here. I need them to be all the way at the bottom to actually fill up this whole thing. So to do that, I'm not going to grab this and try to resize it this way, because now I'm stretching it outside of what it is, the ratio. So I'm going to undo that by hitting Control Z. So what I need to actually do is I need to right click and I need to ungroup the items. And what this is going to do is it's going to enable me to select these individual pieces a lot easier. So right now what I have selected, let's see, if I drag it out of here, what did I select? So I selected this geometric thing. You can see that it's grouped with some other pieces. I'll leave it that way because now I've actually uncovered that one. That one's just a white box. I'm going to erase that. I don't want, well, I do want some of the text. I'm actually going to leave that there. I'm going to select that. I'm going to bring it back so that it's back in line with everything. And now I'm going to click that object again. This is my geometric objects. And I'm going to have to right click and see there's that clipping mask. So it's going to keep me from actually doing anything with it because it's displaying a very particular sort of view where the edges of these objects have been cut off in order to create a clean edge. But the objects, because remember, vectors are mathematical, it's all still there. So I need to actually release that. And once I've done, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. It's actually pretty cool. So now I have all of this. We can bring that clipping mask back very easily. There's actually an easier way of seeing what your final document's going to look like than putting a clipping mask on it. So I'll show you that in just a second. But now I'm going to click this and I can see that these are grouped together. What we're going to hope for here is if I right click and ungroup again, that it's not going to ungroup every single object, but it will ungroup this bottom left corner from this bottom right corner. So let's see what happens. So that is kind of what I was afraid of. There are no standards for how FreePic graphics are created. If I were creating this graphic, I definitely would have grouped these bottom pieces all together in one and these top pieces. So these are all grouped together and I can very easily move that one up into the corner where I want it and no big deal. So that one's good. But this one down here, only some of this is grouped together. That's pretty annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just leave that the way that it was, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to group this correctly so I can actually move it around. So to do that, it's easiest just to be able to highlight, drag, but you can see that I just grabbed a bunch of stuff. So to keep that from happening, what I like to do, and there may be an easier way, is I'll select the things that I'm not wanting to put into this group here, and I'll actually just come up here to Object, and then I can go to Lock, Selection. So Control 2 is the shortcut for that. So now, if I try, I can't even select these things. That makes it really easy for me to be able to go and grab this other stuff. Notice that I've also grabbed in this other group up here. So I'm just going to hold down the Control key, the Shift key, and click that again. And what that did is it deselected it. So I clicked and dragged. Because I clicked and dragged, it included that. I want to get rid of that from my selection, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click the object I don't want. There, it disappeared. Now all that's selected are the things that I want to group to make them easier to move around. I will right click and I will group. Now I can actually move this down like this so that it is the way that I want it on my document. And you're like, well, but there's a ton of stuff hanging over. Well, the way that we're going to export this, it will actually trim that for you. If you do want a clipping mask, then different video on that. But one way to see it, to see that final result, is to come up here to View, and then just select Trim View. and it's going to show you exactly what that looks like with the pieces trimmed off.